fellow friends and neighbors. Welcome in the light, where laughter's the answer and hearts are shining bright. With calloused hands and wits, so razor sharp, let's praise a place where love ignites the spark. In the field of dreams where sweat and hope combine, we'll raise our voices high and toast to the divine. Be your best and let your spirit always rise. Give thanks for every moment under sunny skies. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Well, it's kind of been rainy this last few days, and it's just very humid, and I think it's going to continue to rain around here. It's starting to feel like Seattle or Portland or something like that. I don't know, places where they get a lot of rain, and it's kind of, it's on and off, sunny and then gloomy and overcast. It's just the way it is. It feels just very wet. Seems like a great time to just pull up an Adirondack chair and hang out listening and having a conversation, I suppose, with the sunny side of life. So welcome. Come on, pull up a chair. It's going to be good. Happy Father's Day to all of the dads out there. I hope you had a great weekend, a great Sunday. I did, certainly, and had the opportunity to spend some time with my dad, who is best dad ever. You might take umbrage with that, but I say my dad's the best dad ever. And also my brother, dad, and my brother and I, and my sister was there, and obviously my mom, and just a great time to see everybody. It was my brother's birthday also on Sunday, so he got double duty with a birthday and with Father's Day. Father's Day this year for me was a little bit different. So in the morning so my son Tanner came home for the weekend, and with his wonderful girlfriend Kate, and we got to spend the weekend together. So he was here for Father's Day. My oldest boy, Tate, and his wife, Miranda, my daughter-in-law, they were in Chicago for the weekend, attending a funeral, but also spending some time with Miranda's dad. And so I talked to him on the phone on Sunday, and that was great to hear from him. And also my son Colin was obviously here for the weekend, the youngest. He was around until about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then he and my wife left to go to a basketball tournament a couple hours away that took place in the afternoon. I have mixed feelings about basketball tournaments that happen on Sundays. I think that those type of things in general, particularly when they're on Sunday morning, this one was in the afternoon, but Sunday morning basketball tournaments do tend, in my opinion, to take away from where the families ought to be, which is in church. The church is not the gymnasium, but in today's society, it seems to be that that's the case. Anyway, they went on and they got runner-up. They played 3 games. They just decimated the first 2 teams with their group of players from the high school, and then they ran into an amalgamation, a team of sports heroes from a variety of schools out in eastern Iowa, and they did not win that game apparently, but they played well. They had a good time, really showed their stuff. And the reality is that those teams that like the one that they lost to don't exist in high school basketball. You usually have a handful of good players, and then average players. That's the way it works. But this was one of those amalgamated teams where they just grab the clubs, from everywhere that they can get, so that they can go out and do well, which would be more like what college basketball would be. So they played well, just didn't win. The last game came in second, and that's not too shabby, particularly since it's not basketball season. And I am a believer in seasonal sports. I think that we play our sports in the season, and you can work on them a little bit on the outside. That's where the work is done, the homework, so to speak. But I mean, this year round play of one sport is kind of foolish in my opinion. But that's coming from a dad who got to spend some of the day by himself, just on Father's Day, which actually it was okay too. They didn't get home until later at night, and my son Tanner and Kate, they left in the early afternoon, and but my son Jack, who had been camping with some of his friends from high school over the weekend up in Minnesota, and we'll get to the great state of Minnesota in just a second because there's lots of news happening. Anyway, he came back just in time to hang out with me for the afternoon, and we watched some videos on raising cattle and stocking ponds and, stuff like that we like to do. And it was just hot and muggy on Father's Day, so we just hung out inside and shooting the breeze with my boys at different times of the day. And then he went into town and had to make his lunches for the week, and I hung out, made myself a steak, had a delicious steak, watched some. I think what did I watch? I don't know. It wasn't that important apparently, but just watched some TV and hung out and had a good time. Oh, I know what it was. I was watching Clarkson's Farm. It's the 4th season. If you don't follow that, that's a show that's on Amazon, and I talked about it before. But Jeremy Clarkson, who's known for his escapades around the world for the last 3 or 4 decades, particularly with vehicles. But in this particular case, he does own a farm, and for the last few years, he's been trying to make that farm successful in Great Britain, which comes with its own set of challenges because Great Britain is a heavily regulated free nation. More regulations. That's what the world needs. More regulations. Just ask Jeremy Clarkson about that. And I found it very entertaining, and I always enjoy his foibles, his ignorance in some cases, and his brilliant ideas, because I identify with that too. Like, what if he did it this way instead of that way? And that doesn't always meet with the appreciation for that inventiveness from the local council, which is probably what makes it entertaining. It's it's a reality show. It's happening, It's not scripted out much that I'm aware of, but perhaps it is. I mean, obviously some of it has got to be drawn up in a certain way. So happy Father's Day to everyone out there, all the dads. Thank you for being present. Kids need dads. The mom and dad relationship is an example for our children to see how we build our society, and it's just a wonderful career to be a dad. It's what a blessing to be able to be a father and to be able to have those children that you can get to know and raise and shape and watch and just be inspired by, and hopefully inspire as well. It's great. It's great to be a dad. And thanks to all the dads out there. Hope you had a great Father's Day. This weekend was a fun weekend in general, though. And then also lots of things happening in the news, and we'll get to that in just a second. I'll tell you, first of all, earlier in the last month or so, I've been telling you about this music program that I'm in, this series of shows that my friend Donovan Johnson has put together under the name Vinylfest. And we did a 50s show back in the end of March, and then now in June, we've just this past weekend on Saturday night, we had the 60s show. So we had been working on a variety of numbers. 30 songs ultimately is what was on the set list. So it lasted just over 2 hours, pretty much straight all the way through. There were a couple of breaks with some 60s commercials and some scenes like that. And then just a quick little intermission. There was an open bar and, or cash bar, I guess is what it was. And so people had the opportunity to go out and get a drink or whatever, come back in and enjoy the rock and roll from the 60s. And I got to be a singer in that, just like in the 50s show, primarily just sing along the bottom like a carp on the pond in the bass region, just kind of providing that music. I'm learning that as you know, from the 50s, there's doo-wop, and then in the 60s, you know, it becomes a lot more electrified, and that bass, that electric bass, does a lot of the work for, you know, what I would do. And so my job's pretty easy. Only had a couple of solos that I got to sing, and those were, I would say they were showstoppers, not, you know, to toot my own horn here, but I don't know. I mean, they didn't stop the show, thank God. I mean, they could have, certainly. But had the opportunity to sing a Tom Jones favorite. It's not unusual, and sounded a little bit, I don't know, something like this.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. It's not unusual to have fun with anyone. When I see you hanging about with anyone, it's not unusual to see me cry. I want to die.
Had a beautiful borrowed red velvet jacket. And I had a shirt that I wore, that I bought, and for one show. And I wrote, the community theater, our local community theater's version of A Christmas Carol, over 25 years ago, and redid it, I suppose 5 years ago. And so I present myself in that show as the narrator, and I bought a shirt that was put a 19th century type deal, so it kind of feels like a tuxedo shirt, kind of a pirate, puffy, it only buttons down halfway, a white shirt. So that worked perfectly for Tom Jones with that red velvet jacket, and then I threw on some beads that we had from a Hawaiian lei when we took our trip to Hawaii. So real classy, you know, nothing but class. And it's not unusual to dress like that. I don't know. Maybe I found my new look, red velvet, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe not. And then I got to sing the encore, which is fun. And the fun part of that is that it's Wilson Pickett, and it was Land of a Thousand Dances. Get that started off, sound something like this.
You should stay standing in case you need to leave. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ha! All right. Yeah, I know how to pony. I bought them a rollie. Mashed potato. Do the alligator. Put your hands on your hips, yeah. Let your backbone slip. Do the 1, 2, step. With my little Lucy. Na 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 na. Need somebody help me say it one time. Na 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 na.
So I get a chance in both of these, in both of those scenarios, to do some dancing, which I wouldn't say was very good. It was more parody, I suppose, than actual quality dancing. I wouldn't say that that's my strong suit. I didn't do each song perfectly, but we had a lot of fun, and hopefully people enjoyed it. Sounded like the crowd was into it. They certainly were. It was a good crowd, a few hundred people in the auditorium there, which is great for a small town to be able to put all this stuff together. And we're doing another one on September 13th. It's going to be the 70s show, and that's a Saturday as well. So mark your calendars in case you haven't been to one of the Vinylfest shows here in Forest City, Iowa. The Bowman Fine Arts Arts Center will host yet another Vinylfest presentation, and that will be apparently September 13th. And I don't know if I'm included in that show yet. We'll see what Donovan has to say based on this performance this past weekend. But either way, it's going to be a great show. I look forward to it if I'm in it. Sounds like it's going to be a great lineup once again. And anytime that you're singing songs from an entire decade, you're going to miss a lot of songs that are people's favorites. You try to get as many as you can. Maybe we start with 40 songs, 35, 40 songs that we start working through, and then it gets pared down to about 30. So there's a lot of songs that don't make it in, but then, of course, tons of songs that were very popular that just didn't make it at all. One of the but it sounds like we're going to do it again next year. So just going to repeat the process with a different set, different lineup, and that'll be fun. So next year, it's just kind of cool to have something going on, a little local entertainment. There's a lot of talent in our small towns in America. You find your good singers and they're in churches and they're around, and then you get a chance to sing some pop culture type music from different decades. It was pretty fun. I will say I did do some, I wouldn't call it dancing, for a song, Carousel. On a carousel. Yeah, I didn't sing in that song. But I sang the song in the song before, and I sang in the song immediately after. So I'm just there on stage on a little platform, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to go off stage for just one song. I'll just, Carousel's a short song, so I'll just stay out here. And then decided that it would be funny if I acted like I was riding on a carousel. So just standing in place, going up and down, like basically knee squats, holding on to an imaginary, the pole that they have the horses or whatever the animals are on the carousel. And I was doing that the entire time for the song, hamming it up, took a little selfie, or it looked like I took a selfie. The truth is, I don't know how to take selfies. I can't figure out how the buttons work, so I just held it up like I was taking a selfie. The crowd seemed to enjoy that. It was amusing. It was not as amusing as I thought it would be for me personally, because I realized that the song is not as short as I thought it was. It's like 3.5 minutes long. And so for 3.5 minutes, just doing, deep knee bends. I'm feeling that today. Feeling it. And feeling it in the legs. Got a good workout there in the Vinylfest 60s show at the Bowman Fine Arts Center in Forest City. And so that happened this weekend. It was a lot of fun. Tickets will be available for the 70s show probably in August or something like that if you're interested in having a good time. That's also, of course, football season. So the night before, I will be announcing the football game in Forest City at the high school. And then that afternoon, right there across the street from the Bowman Fine Arts Center is Bullstorf Field for Waldorf University football. And I'll be announcing that as well. So it'll be a jam-packed weekend in that weekend around the 13th of September. And so keep that on your calendars if you're interested in that. Now, because so the show was on the 14th, which was Saturday. That was also Flag Day. And I made a note of that and said, hey, it's Flag Day today. Happy Flag Day to everybody, and we love our flag. It was also the Army's 250th birthday. So I mentioned that, and that got a good rise out of people. They were cheering for that too. The Army's birthday was also on Saturday, the 14th of June, the birthday of the United States Army, 1775, 250 years this year. I'm an Army veteran myself, and so was another one of the soloists who had happened to be in aviation. Marcus Cross, he just did a fantastic job. He's a great tenor. And so we were both up there singing and performing. Lots of Army vets, I suppose, in the auditorium, and it's just fun to say happy birthday to a quarter of a millennium to the United States Army. But as an Army vet and as a guy, I got opinions. I'm proud of my service in the Army. Love the Army uniforms. I did 26 years in the Army National Guard. My dad was in the Army. My Uncle Joe was in the Army. My grandpa, was in the Army Air Corps, and so on and so forth. And so there's just a long history in our family in the Army and other branches as well. But for sure, very happy and proud of the Army's 250 years. It's not the oldest branch. It is the oldest branch as far as, like the full-time active duty services go, followed quickly by the Navy, the Marine Corps in October, and then the Air Force came along in 1947. So there's that. But and Space Force, whatever that is. So proud of that. But it's that National Guard has, got them by 140 years. With 1636 is when the Army National Guard had its first muster. December 13th, 1636, in fact. So long history of military service in this country. And sometimes, it's great. We just celebrate it by saying happy birthday. The Marines are fantastic at They say happy birthday to each other in October every year. And they're very good with their traditions. I don't know what the Navy does. I'm sure something like that. But the thing that we also, to celebrate 250 years, there was a military parade in Washington, D.C. And that's, I don't know, seems kind of Soviet in my opinion. I'm proud of being 250 years old, but I don't like military parades. Everybody loves a parade, right? I mean, that's certainly Donald Trump's opinion. Everybody loves a parade. I'm not that big of a fan of a parade. In general, I think parades are fine. There may potentially good marketing opportunities for local businesses. Small town parades are charming. The 4th of July parades are always interesting. But a military parade has a different demeanor. It just harkens back to when I was growing up, in the 70s and 80s. It just seemed like a lot of our enemies around the world did a lot of military parades, and I don't like it. It just makes me feel like we're doing military parades now, like it's Moscow now, 1983. I don't really like that. So not a fan of that. I mean, maybe you are. But just as a citizen who just kind of likes the fact that our military is run by civilians, which is great. It's a volunteer military force, which is also wonderful. And I think that there is a separation line between our appreciation for the military and recognizing that it is also a weapon of last resort. And that kind of leads me into a variety of sentiments today, not just based on the parade. Parade, whatever. I don't know how much that cost. It is the 250th birthday. I get it. Still don't like it. I'm just, I don't, it looks like it's Soviet Union stuff, or North Korea. I don't like it. And if I was a soldier marching in the parade, I don't think I would like that either. I'd be like, oh, this is what we're doing on a Saturday. It's just walking, the streets of Washington, D.C. Seemed kind of police statey. I just don't like it. And that's my honest opinion as a vet who loves the uniform, proud of the service, just don't like military parades. I think they look like communist dictatorships. And that apparently is something that is driving a lot of Americans nuts across the United States this past weekend, and we'll get into that in just a second. But with the Department of Defense, it bothers me that the Department of Defense is not subject to audit, and it just should be. Like every other government agency, it should absolutely be subject to audit. And I heard something this past weekend that kind of bothered me, and that it was that in the 20 years of that we endured the war on terror. We have lots of wars on nouns in this country since the 60s, and we never win them. But they have. I think the Army or the Department of Defense had $3 trillion, $3 trillion to fight this 20-year war. And $2 trillion of it did go to fighting the war. And $1 trillion of it just disappeared. Where did it go? What was it used for? $1 trillion. I mean, it's so unbelievable. It's laughable because it's just unbelievable. So I'd like to know where that money went. And I'd like to know why the Department of Defense isn't subject to audit. I don't think that is a conservative position to have them as an agency that isn't subject to audit at all. So I thought that was weird. And I did know also in that same conversation, learned that the budget for the military bands is $500 million. We have $500 million for the bands in the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines annually. $500 million for the bands? Look, I support the fine arts, and I appreciate a good military band. By golly, they are some talented musicians, no doubt about it. But come on. $500 million for the band. What in the world? Anyway, don't like military parades, and think that's too much money, and it should be auditable. Auditable, is that a word? Not audible? Anyway, I'll do an audible right now and jump to another subject. The feeling across the country is that there's a lot of unrest, obviously. This past week has been fairly unsettling. I don't get really worked up about anything. My commentary is always kind of pithy, and you'll see why as this goes on. But it just is, there's a lot of things happening, and some of it has to do with the deportation of illegal immigrants to the United States. And as I've said before, if you're here illegally, you have broken the law. And if we are a nation of laws, then we have to enforce those laws. We don't get to pick and choose which laws we are going to enforce. And I think that some governors and mayors and different city councils and just folks in general have come to the conclusion that they can pick and choose which laws will be enforced. I think that there is it's a fairly standard practice, say for like district attorneys or county attorneys, to focus on enforcement of particular laws more than others, but to ignore the enforcement of any law is not what the executive branch is supposed to do in any case. They enforce whatever laws are on the books. And if you don't like those laws, you need to talk to the legislators, because executives, outside of executive orders, which are far too many, they don't make the laws. They execute the laws that are created by the legislature. I think that's the way I learned it in 8th grade anyway, and in government in high school. But nowadays it's a little more fuzzy, I suppose, in understanding who's making the laws. If you don't like the laws, you need to talk to your legislature. They need to change them. But the legislature and lawmakers in general are fairly lazy, and as whether they appear progressive or liberal or conservative or whatever, they really don't want to change much at all. It's just they just want to come up with new things that don't help us. That's their best. That's the best role of lawmakers, is to say, how can I do the worst possible thing in the shortest amount of time with the most other people involved with this, so I don't have to take all the blame. That seems to be what most government politicians are all about. So the ICE raids now have been expanded to blue cities, obviously, New York, LA, Chicago, maybe Denver, et cetera, across the country. And, you need to, and they've really jumped up. They were looking at like 600, 700 a day, or I don't know what their measurements were when the Trump administration first came into power. They succeeded in shutting down the borders just basically by having Donald Trump as the president, saying, well, we're not doing that anymore. And then it really dwindled down to nothing at the border with Mexico, although it had been on the decline in the last part of the Biden administration, simply because they finally decided, whoever was president when Biden was in office, decided, hey, we should probably do a little bit more at the border. And so the last few months of his term, if you want to call it that, they were, the numbers were declining at the border. And then Trump, administration brought that to hardly anything. So success there on the border. Now it's about finding this, we're going to get rid of the criminal illegals. They shouldn't be here. Okay. Well, that again, if you've broken the law to get into the country, you've broken the law, and that makes it illegal. So, I guess any illegal is illegal. Even Reagan, though, was for a certain amount clemency, saying, well, listen, you've been here for, 20 years. You've had 5 kids. I mean, everybody's got a job. Nobody's breaking the law, that type of thing. So it's an interesting stance. It is what the people voted for. It is a problem. It is being resolved. But maybe the way that we're handling it visually is getting a little bit out of hand. Because now we have a lot of chest puffing, and that includes, in my opinion, the deployment, as I said last week, with the California National Guard by the president in order to support the actions of ICE and the federal agencies that are involved in this illegal alien roundup. And I don't like that either. I don't like pulling the National Guard to do that if the governor doesn't want it. And I think that's just I think it's bad practice. And now then the Marines are there too, and I don't like that either. It isn't a case of insurrection. I think it's a bad look for the Republican Party that they are going to pay for. And that's too bad because, I think it's rooted in a sincere effort to enforce the laws. But so they're meeting some resistance. And when you pull in soldiers to enforce things or to seem like they are enforcing laws in any civilian status in the United States, it feels very martial law-like. And maybe that goes hand in hand with a military parade that seems very Soviet Union style. And I don't like that. I think it sullies the uniform that we wear. And I don't like that when I see Army uniforms out there on the streets or Marine uniforms that are, it's a bad look. I understand what it's for. And governors certainly are authorized to use their National Guard for civil unrest. They absolutely can and should do that. And there's some examples a little bit later. The National Guard can be used for a wide number of things, which I'm for. I do have to apologize and retract what I said last week because I was way off. Like I thought that Gavin Newsom probably was like, yeah, go ahead and, as long as you pay for it. But no, apparently he absolutely did not want the National Guard, his National Guard used. And Trump said, screw you. I'm gonna use your National Guard any way I want to. And I feel like that's dirty. And so I don't want to say I agree with Gavin Newsom on that deal, but I thought that they just had like a backdoor agreement, backroom, situation going on there. And they didn't. So I was off on that conjecture. Newsom didn't want the National Guard used in that capacity, and Trump didn't care what Newsom wanted. So there's a lot of chest puffing going around. Who's the bigger commander in chief? And again, I feel like the National Guard does belong to the governor. And most governors, they say, yeah, that's fine. And when they don't, I don't think that should use them. I also don't think you should use federal forces like just the Marines to be called to that particular status. It just is a bad look when you put Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine soldiers against American citizens. Now, we could say, well, these aren't American citizens. They're all illegals, but clearly they're not. They're people who are opposed to the immigration policy for whatever reason. They don't like it, and so they're throwing rocks and stealing shoes and, doing things that peaceful protesters do, set things on fire, ordering in innocent robot vehicles and setting them on fire like good, clear-thinking, large college-indebted folks do because they are, against something. And they're telling us and they're showing us what's going on. So I understand. I appreciate what Tom Homan is doing, and if they're going after the bad guys, you should get them out. However, it seems like it's not a good look. And if you can't handle it on your own, I don't know if it's you maybe need to rethink your strategy a little bit there. I don't know if it'll never change the opinion of people who, hate Donald Trump, hate Republicans, hate conservative values. They're always going to, set their hair on fire and change color, with their, hair and just rally for no reason. And maybe George Soros will help pay for their meals or something like that. But for most Americans, it's starting to feel a little queasy. And the ones that say this is exactly what they get and claim to be conservative, constitutionalist type folks, they're starting to sound just a little tyrannical. And that's not good either. So I'm approaching it as try not to have military uniforms on the streets if you can avoid it at all costs. But the immigration expansion, the ICE expansion for raids, does not apparently affect the hotel maids, bus boys, and lettuce pickers. So that's good. Because if there's anything that Republicans and Democrats can agree on when it comes to illegal aliens, it's that no other people could possibly do these jobs but for these illegal alien types. They're the only ones that can wash dishes and pick our lettuce and clean our hotel rooms, as is well known. And Trump, as a hotelier, he probably understands that. And they got a lot of folks that own those hotels and those resorts and those farms, and they're like, listen, we're gonna need these illegals. And there used to be, during World War II and in the decade or two following World War II, there were programs that were in place for seasonal employment from places like Mexico to be able to work in agricultural, jobs in the United States. And that was very beneficial. And, we recognize that there maybe was a need. I always feel like it's a little bit racist to say that that Americans won't do these jobs, and so these brown people from Central America, they're the only ones that possibly can, and if that's true, which I don't think it is, and both sides present that argument inanely. Americans won't do the job. Maybe Americans don't want to do the job, and maybe the reason Americans don't want to do the job is because we've trained all of our children that they need a 4-year college degree. You need to go in debt $100,000, just like the game of life, to get a college degree, so that when you graduate, you can go out and work in a different field than what your college degree is in, and then be trained by the people at that business how to actually do your job, because everything you learned in 4 years was mostly about how to redeem your cans from your natural light and, survive on ramen noodles, which I suppose are valuable life skills and all of that. But maybe we've just raised generations of our kids to think that they are above washing dishes and above pulling weeds and picking lettuce and apples and cleaning up and making their dang bed. We just had Father's Day. Come on, dads, where are you? Do you make your kids make their beds? Do they even know how to do hospital corners? What's wrong with you? It's our fault. Once again, we elect the wrong people all the time. They don't do a good job, mostly because they don't have anything else going on in their lives, but they're active in their political parties, and they're probably, convinced that if you give everybody an education in America, everybody will be richer from that education. Not so. Anyway, it's probably our fault, because that's why people in America don't want to pick lettuce. And that's why we need immigrants, which the Trump administration apparently agrees. So there you go. Before making that decision, though, what is the other thing that happened regarding immigration? Oh, we did take. So we've got 12 since the 4th of June. We've got 12 countries that are banned for travel bans, and mostly African countries, as you know. What the hell's going on? And now this past weekend, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and really just the fill-in secretary for any position that is needing filling in, and then President Trump said they could go up to 36. 36 is, it's a multiple of 12, so we go ahead and just make it 36. Could be 36 countries that we're going to ban. And again, mostly African. Not sure what's going on with that, but apparently there's, I I mean, from the party of Lincoln, it seems a little odd that the countries that we're most banning are from Africa. A little. I mean, that's a little weird. It's a different look. It's something different. I know there are other countries involved, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do. It could be up to 36. And then my next question would be, well, maybe 48, perhaps 60. Can we go 72? What other multiples of 12 can we do? Is this based on the 12 tribes of Israel? I'm not sure. 12 months of the year. Is there a magic number with 12? What is that about? Is it divisible by 3? 3 is a good number. I don't know. Anyway, could be up to 36. We'll wait and see how the travel ban goes to America with the administration as it is. So as I've said, I don't like it. I get it. I understand it. They're not doing a great job explaining it. We know why, in my opinion. And specifics do matter. And maybe Americans just don't care for specifics. So maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. We'll see. But this all happened. And then Trump flew over to Canada, which is funny. Like, it's he flew over to the 51st state, to Calgary, to attend the G7 summit this week. And that's going to go great, I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be lots of trade deals that come from it, and so on and so forth, or not. We'll see. It was nice to see the Mounties and the natives working together. Saw the native chief lined up there in front of Air Force One, and that was kind of interesting. I noticed it was kind of a windy day, and the chief was having a bit of a deal, maintaining that headdress, but he looked great. It's always good to have the full regalia of the Native Americans in Canada and the United States represent. I think we should do that for really all of our federal, any of our official government business. When we receive diplomats and state leaders from other countries, we should have everybody out there lined up in their costumes and traditional outfits, or maybe that is not called costumes. Costume in the broadest sense of the word, not meant to be degrading. I mean, everybody loves a good headdress. So that was cool to see. It was fun to see Macron shaking hands with everybody. Macron from France making the comment that, Greenland shouldn't be up for grabs. A little jab at President Trump there. He's a French guy. So meanwhile, in Quebec, If you don't know Canadian politics, the French Canadians in Quebec, they definitely do not consider themselves English, and they don't mind maybe having their own little country over there. And I'm sure Macron is maybe not so opposed to that, but to be determined what the people in Quebec in their strange accents will do. But maybe that'll be a relief to the rest of Canada that has had to speak 2 languages the entire time. And maybe Quebec just does go on and do its thing. We'll see. But meanwhile, Greenland should not be up for grabs. And we respect what the French say because they're obviously a world superpower. Now, that sounds very aggressive, and it's not. It's like, I don't really care what Macron says. I don't think we're going to buy Greenland. I think we can have just a great relationship with Greenland like we kind of already do, and we can help control our interests on the North Sea. That's kind of the goal, and maybe we can make life a little bit better for the folks over there at Greenland, because Denmark's not doing a bang-up job either. But it's Greenland. I don't know. Enough of that. Let's see. Speaking of Greenland, Minnesota. It's a hard transition to make there. Minnesota this weekend. Man, what a terrible situation going on there. You had a state representative, Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman, and her husband were murdered in the cities in their home, and then there was a state senator named John Hoffman, and his wife, same person, allegedly, attempted to murder them. And they're pulling through. So prayers to the Hoffman family. This guy that they arrested, they did do a couple of days trying to track down their primary suspect, is Vance Bolter. And he's been accused then of those 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree attempted murder. They did track him down with the keen use of trail cams that were out there in the woods, and somebody reported it, and then the Minnesota State Patrol and the law enforcement agencies, obviously in Minnesota, moved in, and they did find him. They did arrest him, bring him into custody, and now he's being charged with and accused of these 2 counts of second-degree murder and second-degree attempted murder. And we'll see if what's all behind this. Either way, it's just a pretty sick and twisted solution to the problem. Look, as a guy that, in my heart, sometimes I have to pray to, not seek violence as a solution, because like any other person, I suppose, or some people, I get upset and I get angry and I think, oh man, why doesn't these people should just whatever. But I'm like, that's clearly not the right solution. And this guy must have felt that way and acted upon it, which is not great. And I did there's just, obviously you have to presume innocence in this country. I don't think that Tim Walz presumes innocence. I think he's pretty sure that they've got the guy. Probably would have been good if old Tim up there occasionally threw in the word alleged or suspected. That'd probably be helpful. He's making it sound like they absolutely got their man. Clearly, that's why we have investigations, and you go to court and make sure that all of your ducks are in a row, so that you for sure do know that you have your killer and what's behind it. They found his vehicle. He had a bunch of stuff in there, and the press made comments about well, he's got AK-47, so you know what that means. And people that have people that have guns of any type are like, go on, what does that mean? And you're like, well, clearly, like some pipsqueak news reporter understands guns at all. But yeah, this guy had AK-47s. He had some other stuff. He impersonated a police officer. Apparently, he wore a mask. And we know Trump said nobody's wearing masks anymore. This was a full-on mask, like Halloween style. I don't know what that was all about. Had a cowboy hat for some reason. Maybe he has cows. I don't yet, but maybe he does, and that's why he has that hat. It's hard to say. Lots of things with the No Kings flyers in his car, which seemed a little too convenient. I'm not sure. I'm not doubting that this guy is the guy. I'm just, you got to be. I'm just always just a little. Sometimes things strike me as just a little too easy. He had a list and a manifesto and lots of names on it, and all of this is probably true, and we'll find out more as it unravels. But I don't trust anything really that the news reports, and I always try to approach things with a skeptical eye, and I hope this is the guy that they find, and I hope that he is brought to justice, and that all of this is borne out in court, so that we have an understanding of how did we get here? What is the motivation? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why, and the tragic ending of 2 people's lives, and the attempts to end others, and potentially, if had not been caught, more. I think it did strike me as a little odd that they, went from one house. The police went from one house and then checked on another house. Like, how did they know how to do that? So there's just. And, maybe it's just good police work. I don't know. It's just all it's very, very confusing, and hopefully it's borne out and we can figure out what is going on. I will say this, though. This is my pithy comment. I'm not a big Tim Walz fan at all, the governor of Minnesota. But it has nothing to do with Governor Walz. Oh, Minnesota. What are you doing? I don't know how many deaf people there are in Minnesota, 11, 12. I don't know. There may be a lot. And a lot of people use sign language. And I think that's a great way to communicate. I don't know how to do it. But I do always get a kick out of, and I started noticing this in COVID, when every governor had a sign language interpreter beside them for some reason. Oh my gosh. What is the deal with sign language interpreters? Why? And they're so expressive. It's like you're watching a mime do something, and it's so distracting. I'm not deaf, although I feel like I'm getting there, and I can't stop watching what the sign language interpreter is doing with not only their hands but their face, and does it match up with doesn't match up with what the person who is speaking is saying. And I'm trying to I don't speak, I don't read, I don't know how to do signing. But I'm watching them and sometimes I'm like, I don't think that's what they're saying at all. I don't know if that's what's occurring. Wouldn't it be great, if at the United Nations, is there a United Nations sign interpreter for every language, just like there is an interpreter for every language in voice, and they put the little headsets on at the United Nations? Is there also somebody that's doing their own Swahili and sign language? I don't know how this works. But that lady from Minnesota, she's bald by choice, I assume, big glasses, very expressive face, probably an excellent signer. But that is 100% Minnesota. That's 100% Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, right there. That lady, I don't know her. I'm sure she's a wonderful person, has got to be checking a whole bunch of boxes that the Democrats care about in diversity. I don't know what's going on there, but it's distracting and unusual. And I don't know how you get into that job. And if you're in that job, if it's competitive, the more strange appearance you have, the better chances you are of being selected by the governor to stand beside them and really steal the show, which isn't hard to do with a governor like Tim Walz. But the signer, that sign lady, that's weird. But I hope it helps all the deaf people know what's going on, and that's really what it's all about. And I think we can all agree, that you got to keep the deaf folks involved in the current information, so they know what's going on, which is true. Anyway, you could probably just read it, put a little scrolling, the words at the bottom, teletype. I assume deaf people can read. And if they're also, deaf and blind, then the signing doesn't matter either. So I don't know. I don't get the signing thing. I feel like that's a circus act. But hey, text the show if you disagree. Of course, this is a audio only podcast, so. I'm such a jerk. Okay, anyway. All right, so it's a bad look. Here's the thing I noticed about I'm glad they captured the suspect, this Bolter guy. But it's a pet peeve of mine, and I'm sorry to my friends in law enforcement if you feel differently. Because I know that there are a lot of people in law enforcement who are military veterans and wore the military uniform of the branch of service in which they were in. But in which they served, in which they were in. That seems redundant. Anyway, so I don't like it, though, when cops wear military uniforms. I don't like it. I don't care if it says state trooper on it or not. In Minnesota, they really got military dressed up there, didn't they? They got all camouflaged up and really went out there in their camouflage outfits. It's cool to have a lot of cool costumes and outfits and uniforms. It is nice. It's fun to put on a different uniform today. I might wear something different. Ooh, we going to wear that? I bet military guys do it, so I'm sure police officers do it too. Which outfit should we wear? We're going to go total commando on this. Total commando. I have the weird feeling that civilian law enforcement, so not military, right? Military uniforms are for military, and when it's used in law enforcement with Americans, in our towns and communities, if they wear those uniforms, it seems paramilitary, which again harkens back to the Soviet Union. I do not like that. I think that police officers should wear the uniforms that are their service uniforms, whether it's black uniform or blue, sometimes they're OD green, whatever. That's what they should wear. We should be able to clearly identify them as law enforcement officers, not commandos. You don't like it? Well, get a subpoena. I don't agree with your choice of tactical outfitting. There you go. And I think that there's a value in knowing that your brave law enforcement officers are out there doing their job, and you can easily identify them without potentially mistaking them for Delta Force. That's what I'm saying. And I stand on that. So I don't like that. That's the one thing I noticed from all those videos is like they're rolling in there with MRAPs. I mean, guys, that's kind of police state stuff. We talked about it with the military parade for the Army's birthday. We talked about it with other. It's just this all seems very police statey. Like America is becoming more police statey. So that again falls back on us. You tell your local police chief and your elected county sheriffs, no military uniforms. You got your own uniform budget. You're going to look like police officers all the time. That's what's going to happen. And they'll come up with arguments of why they need to be tactically, in these outfits and everything like that. But mostly it's just to look cool. That's what they want to do. And so I don't like it. Don't like that either. And so we'll come back to that potentially. It's a bad look. You shouldn't be mixing military and law enforcement in general. I don't think that that's a good look for American citizens to feel confident that what's happening is on the up and up all the time. And they were definitely doing a great job getting their person, this suspect, this Bolter guy. But I said, it's just a pithy little thing. I don't like what you're wearing. There you go. Speaking of what you're wearing, let's talk about Kristi Noem. That was a better transition, wasn't it? Kristi Noem is a former governor of South Dakota. I like her in a lot of ways. She's conservative. She did the right things with COVID, in my opinion, how they handled that in South Dakota. Obviously, she's very attractive, but she's a little too pinup right now in her ball cap and her flowing hair as she leads press conferences. She wears her little ball cap down and like, I'm tough. I'm wearing this ball cap because I'm all business. Also, I have, Wonder Woman flowing hair. And it's like, I'm not a critic. Obviously, this show, I guess I am proving to be a critic of what people wear and their haircuts. So I'm just going to continue this with look, she's a very attractive person. There is a time and a place for that. But if you want me to take you seriously when you're in front of the podium and, you're surrounded by your law enforcement folks at Homeland Security, then pull your hair back like all of the women who serve in the military. Now, this is a case where I'm like, okay, maybe look a little bit more military and less civilian. If you want me to take you seriously as the Department of Homeland Security boss, and you're tough, and I know she is because she sets things on fire with flamethrowers, and if you're a bad dog, you know what happens. Pull that hair back, get it back like the women in the military, take the hat off. I don't know why you're wearing a hat indoors. Are you armed? I don't like that. So, that's my, just tighten it up a little bit, look a little more professional and a little less pinup. Not that she cares what I think, but that's what I'm thinking when I'm watching the press junkets going, what is happening here? Anyway, Israel and Iran are going at it. And as Donald Trump says, sometimes just got to let them fight it out. Israel and Iran love to fight each other. Israel took out a bunch of Iran stuff last week, and now this weekend, Iran fired back with missiles and hit targets that weren't, they're just apartment buildings, for crying out loud. Iran, you morons, in Tel Aviv and Bnei Brak and different places in Israel. The Iranian missiles, killed a bunch of people. We don't know how many yet. They do a lot of damage. A lot of damage. And, people civilians in these cases on both sides are continuing to, fight this weird battle between ancient kingdoms that can never get along in the first place. I'm not an expert on Middle East. Neither side is innocent, in my opinion. And so maybe Trump is right. Maybe sometimes they do just have to fight it out a little bit. I think we know who would win that, though. I think Israel can handle Iran pretty well. But, I don't know. The Iranian people, is that what they want? Or is this just what the mullahs want? Khomeini and so on and so forth. Trump did say, hey, listen, all right, we're not going to assassinate Khomeini today, Israel's going to do what Israel always asks permission, or they seem to collude or ask permission. That's clearly the case when it came to last week's, bombing situations that Israel did. Trump was in the know, so like they're always like saying, hey, listen, we're going to do this. You all right with that? And then we pretend like we don't know anything. And then after it happens, we're like, yeah, we did know. So in this case, apparently Israel's like, we're going to take out Khomeini. And they're like, I don't think you should do that. So I don't know who's actually pulling the trigger then anymore in these cases. But none of it is very good. What else happened? The No Kings protests. I mentioned that. The flyers, right? No Kings protests all over America. People they think Donald Trump's a dictator and a king. And then, of course, the same people are actually, in my opinion, voting for a king-like rule by putting the elite in charge that know better than we do. And they just take all of our money, distribute it accordingly, and everything will be perfect. But I haven't heard... People can protest. That's fine. Just the press, the term peaceful protest has now become a joke. And I don't think that the protesters know exactly what it is for sure that they're protesting. From all of the things, I watched several. I didn't watch everything, but I watched several. I just wanted to hear what their honest, specific arguments were. Like, prove to me that Donald Trump wants to be a king. Now, maybe you could say, well, he did do a military parade. I mean, there is that. He did take the National Guard out of the governor's hands and put that in and determined that it was an insurrection. But hey, everything's an insurrection anymore. So maybe it was. But the No Kings protesters, I just haven't heard them say anything specific in any newscast that presents an argument that it's all just generalities, which is probably normal, I suppose, for people who are just generally unhappy. I think they don't like the idea of law enforcement, taking their friends off. I don't know how many of those people that are protesting are illegals. I don't know how many of them are friends with illegals. I don't know. Maybe some of them are employers of illegals. I don't know. But it seems like it's just a great opportunity to go out and protest. And so from Hawaii to Maine and everywhere in between, lots of No King protests over the weekend. Go ahead, protest. Just don't break anything, because that's not your stuff to break. Yeah, that's how it works in America. And you should probably have a pretty solid, you should probably come up with 10 things that you can point to specifically that you can argue other than just your emotions, because Nobody cares about your emotions. Now, I want to end this with a positive example. It is a tragic situation about how maybe a governor or law enforcement or the National Guard should present itself in a situation. A situation has occurred this weekend with the floods in West Virginia. So Governor Patrick Morrisey is like the grandfatherly, kinder, common guy version. I think that what the Democrats were hoping that they would get from Tim Walz. But Morrisey he seems like, I'm just happy being the governor of West Virginia and taking care of these, mountain mamas on these, country roads. I've been to West Virginia a few times. It's a beautiful state, and it's got, just wonderful place to be. Those hills and valleys, they can flood, and that's what happened this weekend. Devastating, 4 confirmed deaths, several missing. Situation. Pray for the folks of West Virginia. There's flooding that's happening, and it's devastating. It's not like West Virginia is an incredibly wealthy state to begin with. So there's a lot of issues that are happening over there, and we just have to keep West Virginia, the folks in West Virginia, in our prayers. As with all of these people, the protesters, the Trump administration, the Gavin Newsoms, what's going on across the country, everybody. We should be praying for all Iran and Israel, praying for God to sort it out, to find peace in the hearts of these people. But I think Governor Patrick Morrisey does a good job explaining what is going on. It's a good example of what the National Guard is used for and can be used for in the states at the governor's control, at the behest of the governor. He's obviously responding to a natural disaster. People are happy to see the National Guard uniforms in the street when they're picking up, the detritus remaining from a flood and opening roads and that type of thing. And I think it's interesting to note that Governor Morrisey, while flanked with his adjutant general and other leaders of his law enforcement organizations throughout the state, no sign language interpreter in West Virginia. And that's how you know that they've got it figured out, right? West Virginia, no sign language interpreter. It's not a show. I'm sure that there are deaf people in West Virginia also, and they have television sets and they can read, what is it called? I can't think of it. The teletype. Let's call it the teletype. The scrolling words of the Governor Morrissey. No weirdo sign language interpreter in West Virginia. Or they were busy doing something else. Hard to say. And I'll leave you with this. I went out to West Virginia probably first time maybe 20 years ago. Has it been 20 years already? Not quite 20 years ago. And I was out there for a conference in the military, and they had hired a band, a local band from West Virginia there, Charleston area, and they're called the Davison's Brothers Band. And they're brothers, and their last name is Davison. And you can find them on Facebook, and they're on Amazon and all of your digital services, and they are fantastic. The Davison Brothers Band out of West Virginia is probably my favorite band today. They are a little country, a little rock, very West Virginian, unique sound to their all of their songs, and their voices blend well. They little rougher sound, but not rough, and kind of twangy, but not too twangy. I love the Davison Brothers Band. I've tried to get them to come to Iowa. I think the furthest west they've ever come is like maybe Illinois or Indiana. So they don't travel too far out of the region yet, but maybe they will someday, and I hope they do, because you should check out the Davison Brothers Band. I'm sure that they will be doing some things to help raise money for their fellow citizens of West Virginia in the near future, if they're not already doing so. They're fantastic and unsolicited. I just love the music of the Davison Brothers Band, Davison Brothers Band. And that, my friends, is going to wrap it up for this week. I've got some things to do. It's rainy. We'll see how this week goes as I continue my ever-loving search for the cattle of my dreams, or at least the cattle to eat the hay that I have created. And we'll keep you updated on all of that stuff. Lots of things happening in the world, in the country. And hopefully, the best thing that any of us can do, I think, is we can always pray. We can fervently pray. Put our petitions to God, who has all things under control. We may not understand what it's all about. And I think things get really out of control when we think we do know what it's all about, and when we think we're going to take control and solve problems that maybe we shouldn't necessarily be solving, or certainly not attempting to solve without God's help. So, that in mind, go out, do great things, keep your hands calloused, and be the sunny side of someone else's life.
When the shadows fall and doubts begin to creep, remember, together we're strong, never weak. Lift your neighbor up with kindness every day. Let your actions speak the words you want to say.
The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. None of this is possible, of course, without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory.
Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life in Christ be made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.